Hey everybody, welcome back to the Friday night prepper pre-party show, and I am very excited to bring on our guest tonight. But before I reintroduce her, because she's been on our channel before, I would like to remind everybody just a few quick rules here on our live stream chat. And number one, no racism. Number two, no sexism. Number three, be kind to the moderators. Number four, be kind to our guests. Lastly, if you have anything you want to argue, just articulate it. Learn how to debate in a way that's respectful to others. As long as you do that, we welcome some disagreement and debate here. If you get into nastiness, that's where we start to say, okay, like if you can't tone that down, then we got to put you in timeout. But we've not had to do that, so let's not go there today. And last little announcement that I have for my channel is I'm going to be working on a giveaway. Stay tuned for details on that. I've got some Faraday NX3 defense bags. So if you've been wanting to get some Faraday bags to put your electronics in, either for privacy or to store some important electronic stuff in case of a coronal mass ejection or an EMP, I have a giveaway coming up. And this stuff's usually not, it's not cheap, guys. It's expensive gear. So this is going to be a fun giveaway. Stay tuned. Details are coming on that for that one. Okay. All right. So let me introduce my friend Jess from Firefly Farmstead and Apothecary. And you have been on our channel before, so I am really glad to have you back. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. As you were introducing all the rules, I couldn't help but think those are good rules for all of us to live by. The world would be a better place.
True. Yeah, I think kindness goes a long way, right? And kindness is free. And I think somewhere along the line with the not just like social media, but like creation of the internet in general, like people have they will say things on the internet that they wouldn't say to a person in person. And I've been guilty of it too, of course. You know, I sometimes will get into that mode of like, you know, I gotta give my opinion, and not racism, not sexism, but like I gotta give my opinion, and I'm maybe not going to be as kind as I would have been if I was talking to that person face to face. So it's always a good thing for us to be mindful of.
Absolutely. And I think you have an amazing community, at least from what I've experienced. So that's a testament to what you're creating here. So happy to be here.
Thank you. I do. I have a great audience. Let me say hi to people real quick before we go into some questions and discussion. Scott, thank you for the message. I saw that. Appreciate you. Yeah, do what you got to do, brother. You're here every week. I appreciate you. No worries. Virginia Bushcrafter, how are you doing tonight? I saw one of my moderators here early, Sassy Gal Prepping. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. And yes, it's been a wild week, Sassy. Let's see. I saw Lazarus Long popping in here. Thank you so much. Kathy Williams, how are you doing tonight? It's good to see you. Yeah, Faraday bags, D-Man. They're it's an expensive piece of kit, so I'm glad that we're going to be able to do this. I'll be getting into the details on this later on not tonight, and who sponsored that and everything. So stay tuned for that stuff. Yep, no worries. Yeah, everybody's excited about the Faraday bags. That's cool. Vanessa Kitties, good to see you. How are you doing, my friend? All right, let's go ahead and get into this. I want to be respectful of your time. So I had a few questions we can start with, and for those, let's do this. For people who maybe didn't catch your first time on the channel, can you tell them a little bit about yourself, how you learned so much about working with herbs and natural remedies, and what brought you to this point with your business?
Sure. Well, I've been learning and using and practicing as an herbalist for over 20 years now. I'm a clinical herbalist by trade and a mama of 4. And I've used herbs on the homestead and in real life with my family for over 2 decades. And I've helped people recover their health using natural methods. You know, I often see what they call the zebras, people that have tried everything else and are not getting the results and the support that they need. And at my heart, I'm truly an educator. I love teaching people that if I can do it, you can do it. I was fortunate and blessed to have a grandmother who lived by that, and a mother who just is, you know, the epitome of, I'm going to do it myself. I can get it done one way or the other. So I know that that really resonates with a lot of people that are probably watching this in your community as well. So it's my goal to demystify some of the things that go along with using herbs and natural healing to help walk people through that in a real world sort of scenarios. I love to learn and teach through stories, which is something that I was fortunate to be able to have like that lifetime of experience and also to hear those stories from grandmothers and a lot of our older herb teachers or herbal elders, face to face and one on one. So I've taught in a variety of uh, venues, everything from TPs to resorts.
Mhm.
And I just love the hunger that people have for this knowledge right now. And I'm so thankful and blessed to be here.
I'm really glad that you mentioned your mom and grandmother, because traditionally, isn't this, herbalism and apothecary healing and Ayurvedic medicine? Isn't it often, not always, but often, a kind of a thing that's passed down maternally?
Oftentimes, yes, we do
Yeah.
see a very strong lineage of that. And I think that a lot of what has caused people to move away from it was it started to feel foreign because we didn't have someone just showing us. And that can be a little bit intimidating to use in a real life situation, especially if you're using it. I might experiment on myself, but to use it for children or for pets, someone that you really care about. But when you have a grandma or a mother or someone doing that in front of you, over and over and over again, you start to realize like, oh, this not only is it not causing harm, it's actually like a go-to. We can just do this, so it becomes second nature like that.
Right. And I don't mean to like shortchange the medicine men in the
Mhm.
community. Like obviously that's a
Mhm.
thing too. I just think it's been a little bit more common in my observation that it was more of a kind of a maternal tradition that was passed down, grandma to mom, mom to daughter, and that
Mhm.
kind of thing. Obviously, there's going to be exceptions to that, and there's different cultures that have that was probably handled differently. But all right, so you mentioned you've got a couple little ones. Are you also passing on this lineage to any? Have any of them started to take to it?
Yes, absolutely. My oldest daughters, they are in their 20s, so they're much older. They've, flown the coop, so to speak. And my greatest I guess my greatest accomplishment in the world is seeing them flourish in their own right and bring new information and take what I've been able to share with them and add to it and come back to it, and they'll have their own, ways of using not only herbal medicine, but nutrition, um, essential oils, the whole gamut. And so just seeing that continue on. I also teach in homeschool co-ops. And so, and in a lot of garden clubs and things like that for all ages. So that's been another area. And then my littlest one, she enjoys coming along. It's just an outing for her, but she doesn't realize how much more she knows than like her peers at this point. So it's kind of fun whenever she'll point and be like, "Hey, mom, is that plantain or is a lot of kids know these as just spiky balls, but the sweet
Right,
gum. So she knows
right.
this is something that's valuable when it's green, that we make medicine for the flu with it. So,
Yeah.
it's
Actually,
just
that's so you're going to teach us a couple things tonight, right?
I'm gonna show you some things that just this afternoon, I wandered around and harvested so that we could talk about some stuff that, is coming up in the South already and that hopefully in your area you're gonna start to see. So to start being on the lookout for a lot of these spring greens and spring herbal medicines, a lot of these things come up very early and then, tend to die back a little bit or not as easy to see as some of the other plants pop up in the later summer. But,
Mhm,
we've had some unseasonably warm weather, so I felt so lucky that I was able to harvest a few things. We're gonna make a poultice together,
mhm.
and that's gonna be super fun, and you're gonna learn specifically about plantain, which is a great herbal ally to, know and understand, and it's the first plant that I teach, foragers. So
Mhm.
whenever I'm foraging and teaching my, students, that's the first one we learn because there aren't very many that look like it, and most of the plants that look slightly similar to it are non-toxic. So
Mhm.
I have big
Yeah.
worries. Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah, actually, I was just having a conversation with my wife about plantain, and
Mhm.
she thought I was talking about the fruit plantain, and I was like, no, no, you know what this is. I've shown it to you when we've been
Mhm.
out walking. You use it for bee
Yeah.
stings and things like that. And she's like, huh? And I showed her a picture.
Mhm.
She's like, oh, okay, I
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
Because it's a good one to learn because it's easy to recognize and it's got a lot of good medicinal properties that without even if somebody didn't want to like dive full on into this, that's a good one to know because it's easy to use, it's easy to work with, it's easy to identify.
It's
um
abundant, it's non-toxic,
mhm,
and it tends to grow in areas that we find ourselves because it kind of likes compacted soil.
mhm,
So it likes to grow wherever we're walking or treading. So you'll find it in your backyard, you'll find it in your parks, you'll find it along roadsides, anywhere that um, humans have been and the soil is like slightly disturbed. And it's not super picky as far as where it grows. And I found it from coast to coast. So
mhm.
I
Yeah, it
haven't
seems
found
to be
it.
all over from what I can tell too. Yeah.
Mhm. Now
Do you
there
want to
are,
start? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead. Oh,
I was gonna say, do you want to start with that one, or do you want to start with somewhere else? And we're gonna get into your website and all the cool things that you've got here too.
well, I'll show you a few of the things that I found just to get those off my little board here, and then we'll dive deeper into plantain. So on my walk, I found the sweet gum balls.
Hmm.
And like I said, a lot of the kiddos will know this from throwing them at each other, but they're
Yeah.
great medicine and wonderful antivirals. And I have some information and videos about that. Another very early spring herbal in our area is chickweed, and
Mm.
so or henbit, and
And
henbit, yeah, and henbit can be mistaken for dead nettle. Thankfully, they both have medicinal value,
both
and
both are edible, just like raw, right?
they are. Now, these very early wild plants, what was taught to me, and so I pass this on to others, is when you start experimenting with trying new plants and foraging, the one adage that my grandmother taught me was an old forager is a good forager. So learn from someone who's been doing it in your area specifically for a long time. And the other thing that I'm sure you've heard is everything's edible once. It's that
Yeah.
second time that's debatable. So do your due diligence and get a good ID book. And again, I just say find someone who's been around, who knows things,
Yeah.
that's actually out doing that. And so know how well you can see the pin bit there, but you can see it's beautiful, and you'll notice those little purple flowers. Um, but I was taught that when you first start eating wild foods, you should eat a little bit of a wild food every single day,
Okay.
and that you should start with a very small amount. And some people will be a little more sensitive to some of the greens because they just aren't used to it yet.
Mhm.
So
They're
small.
very wild greens, for people who've never eaten them. The flavor's a lot more intense,
Mhm.
um, but that also speaks to the medicine, right? Like
Yeah.
the stuff you buy in the store, like iceberg lettuce, has no taste,
Yes.
but it also has no nutritional value, right?
None.
Like, so eating like henbit dead nettle or purple dead nettle, or wild lettuce, it is going to taste a little bit stronger, and it is a little bit does take a little bit of an acquired taste. I don't mind it. I think wild lettuce, to me, it's a little bitter,
Mhm.
but it's not bad. It doesn't taste bad. It's just like our palate is used to this sweet, watery lettuce that has no nutritional value.
It is so true. Yes, we know that wild foods are much more nutrient dense, and that that flavor in herbal medicine that's called organoleptics, what we can perceive with what we can taste and see and smell, and that tells us that gives us clues about what is actually in the plants. So when people get the profile card, the herbal profile card for plantain that we're going to go into.
Mhm.
Um, I talk about the energetics and the taste, and this isn't like woo-woo energetics. This is a way of describing how the plant works in the body and also what it actually tastes like. Because again, that tells us how we can use it. And that was the way that plant medicine was passed down over eons versus what kind of phytochemicals are in it. And the fascinating part is the more that science tries to break it down and break it apart and disprove it, the more it's actually being proven. So it's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some chickweed here, and
Mhm.
chickweed is a great edible and spring green. And it's called Stellara because although they've closed up now, they like to close up at night. It's got little white flowers with the 5 pointed leaves on there. And this is an excellent herb for wounds and irritations. You can make a salve or a poultice or an oil out of it, similar to the plantain we're going to get into. There are quite a few lookalikes to the chickweeds, so you do have to be a little more cautious about it. This one falls more into like the spurge family. It's got fuzzy leaves, and so that's one of the giveaways. So I just wanted to show people how valuable and important it is to have someone show you
Mhm.
face to face, because those, if you're just walking through, those could look a lot alike.
Yeah.
But that one you wouldn't want to consume, and this one you would. And the telltale giveaway for the chickweed is that there's a tiny ridge, almost barely be able to see it, but if you look very closely, a very
Mhm.
tiny ridge of hairs.
Okay.
And that is how I know that I have true chickweed. Chickweed is wonderful lymphatic. So crushing it up and putting it anywhere you have stuck lymph. So sometimes if you've gone through some sort of infection, whether viral or otherwise, you might get some swollen lymph nodes, and that can be very painful. So that's one way it differs in the plantain that we're going to talk about. But it's the big giveaway for that one.
Good one.
And it's very prolific, and some people, it is a milder flavored plant, so it's a lot more tasty than some of our others. Then we have our star of the day, our foraging friend, which is plantain. I have had luck transplanting this locally, but mostly you're going to find it wild. I don't know of a whole lot of nurseries in our area that sell their herbs, but it's so plentiful. I can't imagine that you would necessarily need to grow it unless you're an herbalist like me and just love to have your plant friends in the front yard growing everywhere.
Mhm.
Plantain grows in what we call a roselle or rosette, and that means that it branches out like this and it has one central point, and that's where all the leaves come from. And it has slightly ovate or egg-shaped leaves
Mhm.
in our species. In the South, in our area, we have several different plantains, but this one is the plantain virginica. And so I know that because it gets much bigger, much rounder leaves, and they'll start to turn purplish at the base of the stem, which is different than our plantago major or narrow leaf plantain. There
So
is this,
that's what I was thinking. When we're talking botanical plants, the generally speaking, it's encouraged for people to learn the Latin name too, right? Because what I may call this is probably not the best example, but what I may call broadleaf plantain, that may look different to somebody out in California, right?
yeah,
But if we use the botanical name, we're talking about the same species.
yes, definitely. And again, as you mentioned, like plantain, the fruit, um, completely different, completely different plants. And another common name for plantain is ribwort. And there's a lot, if you start digging into the old text, there's a lot of different ribworts. So, depending on what region you grew in, you grew up in, you might call it something else. Like I feel like a lot of people call quack grass. There's like a million different versions of quack grass, which is just an invasive grass species in the yard.
Mhm.
Um, Plantain, I really enjoyed bringing this in for you today because you can see the seed pods, and there is this tiny little stalk that will come up in the late summer, and it will grow teeny tiny little flowers that then turn into seeds. And all parts of plantain are safe to consume. We don't really use the roots. But the leaves are what we're going to talk about today, primarily for poultices and wounds and things. The seeds are actually edible, and some people will use them kind of similar to like a psyllium fiber supplement to help get things moving and going for constipation and things. So they're very mucilaginous. That's an
Is
herb.
there oils in them that's worth harvesting, or too much work?
Not that I'm aware of. They are the itziest, bitsiest little tiny wild seeds that you can imagine. I think that that would probably maybe be a little bit prohibitive since, as you can see, you don't get a whole lot of seeds. But when they're a little bit like the teeniest, tiniest little chia seed, if you can imagine that. So, in theoretically, maybe might be on something.
You need a lot of them to get a little bit of oil. Yeah.
Yeah. Might have to give that a try. I think that's what herbal medicine's all about, safe experimentation. So, yeah. So plantain is a vulnerary, and that means that it helps us heal wounds, and it's cooling. So if you have a wound, generally speaking, it's going to be a little bit hot and irritated. It's anti-inflammatory, and it's a little bit of a hemostatic. So that means it helps stop bleeding. Now, if you've got a huge gaping wound, you're going to want to take care of it a little differently, or that's where your more first aid comes in. You're going to want to know how to use some other measures before you come back to your plantain, right? But it does have
But
some
in
of
the healing phase of it, as the wound is healing, you certainly would benefit from it.
You're going to apply your pressure and do all those things. But there's some great stories and evidence about plantain handling some pretty significant wounds that in our modern times we don't really have to think about. But when we start digging into the eclectic herbal texts where the physio-medical doctors, which were a real practicing breed of doctors many, many years ago, in our nation's beginnings, we know that these plants were used before we had pharmaceuticals. So not saying you shouldn't get, urgent care. I'm just saying you're in an austere sort of situation. Plantain's a good plant to know. And it's also excellent if you're just a mom or a family and you encounter a minor wound at a park or camping. We're coming into spring and soon summer. So plantain is a great friend to have for that purpose. Yeah.
And I was always taught it's good for like ant bites and bee stings and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's wonderful for any sort of ant bite, bee bites, any sort of boil or anything. It's considered a drawing herb. So whenever we make this poultice, that's something that's going to help heal wounds, but it could also be used to pull stuff to the surface. So splinters, sometimes you'll have a little bit of like a minor infection under the skin. If it's not spreading and it's safe to start some home use. It's a great, wonderful thing. It can be used in the mouth orally for sores and irritation as well. And it also helps heal the digestive tract because even though we don't necessarily think about it, our digestive tract is just an extenuation of mucosa. And that's one area where it really shines. And because of its astringent properties, it pulls the lining of the gut junctures back together. If you're in the natural health world or if you are searching for ways to support your health naturally, you've probably heard people say gut health is, where you need to start, and plantain can be a helper for that internally. And if you've heard about mullein for respiratory health, plantain also can be used similarly. It can help with cough and help get phlegm up more productively. So it's its own little pharmacy right at your feet. You didn't even know.
Yeah, it's a fantastic plant. You mentioned mullein, and I saw you recently did a video with mullein, and it blew my mind because we don't live far from each other. Okay.
Yeah.
We're only about 30, 40 minutes away. I cannot find mullein.
Mullein is uncommon to see here. I will say that I rarely, if ever, see it. I know a few people that had lamb's ear that thought that they had mullein, and a few people that have actually, ordered the live plants from elsewhere and had them shipped in. I did see some at a corner where they were putting in a new, what I suspect was a gas station, because I know you're local to the area and you've seen how they've just clear cut and put stuff in. And so as they started to disturb the ground, the mullein popped up last year. But there was nobody there that I could ask directly, like, can I have that mullein? But it popped up, it was beautiful, and I was driving by hoping to see somebody.
Did you grab some?
I did not. I didn't. Not great. I know how our locals are. I don't want to show up on property without permission.
For me, it would have depended how close is it to the road, right? Like if I can get it discreetly and quick, I might have grabbed it.
Yeah.
So that was, without saying, because I know about where you are, that was close to you in the video.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to find, and I all the times I'm out walking in fields and everything else, it is really hard to find here.
Yeah.
But I will take that tip and remember, like, where ground is disturbed. I've not tried to look in places like that, so that I'll try that.
Yeah. And it will grow here. It's just getting it started because it needs that, what they call cold stratification. So it needs to sit dormant in a cold environment and then come up before that heat. So I'm not sure. That was the year, we had some snow, but that was the year before. So we had all that snow. So maybe just the stars aligned and that's how it was able to, the climate was, it was able to do that. But I think that's why people have more luck if they order in live plants versus just the seeds. Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you, everybody who's joining in chat. I'm speaking here with Jess from Firefly Farmstead and Apothecary. And if we can, let's kind of go over some of your business stuff here before we go into the poultice. And
sure.
And then maybe we can end with that, if that's okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, so let's go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to show them your website. Hang on.
Perfect.
I've got all kinds of things up here, including your, there it is. Okay. So this is Jess's website, and I'm going to point out a few things here, but if there's something that you want me to hit on, let me know. But a couple of things that caught my attention here is, number one, if people want to get a consult with you, like say I've been having stomach ache for 2 months here and I don't know what's going on, right? Like they can set up a video call with you and you guys can talk through some of that stuff, right?
Absolutely. I've been really fortunate to have years of experience working with people alongside functional medicine doctors. And so I got that real world clinical experience, and I've been able to branch out and do my own private practice, helping others with clinical herbalism and integrative nutrition. So it's been wonderful.
Okay. And then, sorry.
And I also help with animals as well. So I've been getting more and more questions of people asking how I can help support them with their pets.
I love that. You've got some free recipes on here, which is awesome. You've got these, I know you were going to talk about these cards, and it looks like these are all free. Do you want to talk about those for a second?
Absolutely. There's a number of herbal profile cards in there. So those are snapshots where people can get some great information to start their herb learning journey, and they can get a little bit of a feel for what type of herbal educator and teacher I am. Of course, whenever they join as a member into the Rooted Remedies Family Herbalism course, we go into this very in-depth with all of that. But I just really encourage everybody, get on there, get all the free stuff, and get to learning about this. Because if you're here to learn.
I don't know anywhere else that's got this kind of information just for free. That's just putting it out there for the community. So that is amazing. So I love you got the recipes on here. I'm trying to find where you have the memberships. Was that up the top?
It was at the very top. Mm-hmm.
So this caught my attention. So you can try the membership
Mhm.
for $1 for a month.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's insane. That is such a good value.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I
And go
want
ahead. Yeah.
people to, I just want to build this community of people in this space, both locally and beyond. I'm just so encouraged by how many people are interested in learning how to do things themselves, how to better their community. Um, to continue to carry on the legacy of herbal medicine. I'm so passionate about that being something that is passed on through generations and that we don't lose that knowledge. And I think, like prepping is very similar. Prepping was just a way of life. We didn't really, of course you prepared because you didn't have this false sense of security with modern, industrialized life, which I like my easier path in modern world. But herbal medicine really connects us to the land, it connects us to the plants, and it connects us to each other. And personally, with my own background, I feel like it connects me to the creator as well.
I love it. I love it. And so, and in your membership here, it shows all kinds of cool things that they can get. You've got lessons in there. Is that you're talking about like video lessons?
There are video lessons, there are written lessons, and there are I'm going to be working on doing lives as well. So I'll be going live and answering questions on a regular basis so that people can get that face-to-face time and more of that mentorship.
Okay. Fantastic. I really want people to check this out. So we've got that scrolling down the bottom. And then also in the description here, whoop, let's fix this. There we go. In the description, folks, I've got Jess's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You even have some recommendations on Amazon. I saw that, right?
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, I'm trying that out.
So all of her social medias are down in the description down below. I follow her. I watch her videos every day. You're missing out, honestly. If you're a prepper and you want to be a little bit more self-sufficient, and one of the things we do talk about is what happens if things start to fall apart. What happens if your access to your doctor, your pharmacy, supply chains for medicines break down? You need to have some knowledge of this stuff, and you don't want to like try to figure that out like after it's happened. You want to at least be building some skills, building your library, getting some basic knowledge at least to get you started. The so I like taking classes. I've taken classes with Mark Merriweather and April Punsalam. And of course, I'm always watching Jess's videos. One of these days, I'm going to get to take a class with Jess. There's no excuse because I live so close to you. I have to make that happen. So live, if you get the chance to train with a live instructor, that's the best, in my opinion. That's the best experience. Second to that, watching videos, getting good books, and like what books do these people recommend? That's what I think you should be looking at, right? Now, before I hand the mic back to you, uh, let's talk a little bit about like the foraging apps and stuff like that. So I've changed my opinion on this a little bit. And when I was down at Georgia Bushcraft, Mark Merriweather, somebody brought that question up with him. And what we can say, and I agree with Mark on this, is they're getting better, but they still make mistakes.
Mhm.
And a mistake can be fatal if you're not careful. Okay. So I'm not opposed to people using a foraging app, but not as your answer. That cannot be your answer. If you want to use it as a starting point, like, hey, this is a cool, interesting plant. Let's see what the app says. Then I might screenshot it and I'm going to write down or make a note of what the app says. And then I'm going to check it with other sources. I'm going to look in my foraging books. I'm going to go online and like see what other pictures I can find. Does it look like this? What is it supposed to look like at the root level? What is it supposed to look like for the leaves? Is it supposed to have little fuzzy hairs in there? What is the underside of the leaf? But you cannot do that with just the app. So
No.
I used to say don't use the apps at all. I've modified my opinion. I think if you use the apps only as your starting point and not as your answer, I'm okay with that. But what's your thought?
Oh, you know how I feel about
Go
technology.
ahead. Go ahead. Give us your opinion.
You know, I do agree it could be used for a starting point, especially in the very beginning stages of learning. I think it's a little bit like, you know, if your spouse is a car guy and he's talking about this car and that car on the road, and you're like, I see a car. It's a red car. It's a car, you know.
Yeah.
I think that people have that experience with me whenever we're foraging and I'm pointing out different stuff. It takes a while to kind of develop an eye for the different plants, because plants grow in communities, so it can be kind of overwhelming. Even, you know, getting the plantain dug up today, it was growing right next to some dock. Now, docks, it looks similar in this very early stage, but being able to kind of untangle the two plants so that I could bring in just this one takes a while to develop that eye. I promise all of you can, and you'll be amazed at how good you do at it. And actually, your kids, if you get them involved, they're really good at it, because they're used to being on the ground and playing and stuff all the time. But
And their little minds are like sponges. They just soak up information.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. But I really I hesitate with, obviously, with using it. It's certainly not definitively. And I would use a book written by a real human, not by AI, and I would use, you know, a guide, someone that's been in your area, just because, you know, I'm aware of seasoned herbalists who've made the mistake of, you know, consuming hemlock. Thankfully, the moment that they touched it to their mouth, they immediately knew, based on the feeling, you know, it started to cause some numbness and some burning and stuff, and they immediately knew their mistake. But accidents can happen, and it's important to really exercise that discretion early on. But if you just want to start and you just know, like, if you're going to do that to start, I think you can get down to species. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, just do not make your decision about ingesting or using it, or even touching it. Really, like even so, touching some plants can be bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Based on just an app, I think it's a mistake, and I see people sometimes in the prepping forums say, "Oh, this app has never made a mistake yet."
Yeah.
Yeah, and it only takes one time. It only
Well,
takes
it's
one time.
similar, yeah, to asking AI about, you know, like herbal medicine questions. Because now I guess 70% of the books most recently written and published on, I think it was Amazon, in the herbal medicine genre were written by AI. But in my very limited experience in asking ChatGPT a few questions, I'm like, that's not right. That is not right, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I play around with it in the mental health world, like asking it, you know, like, hey, what do you think about this? If I have a patient who expresses these symptoms, now I will notice, what I have noticed is that because there's been a couple suicides and some wrongful things that have happened because of the earlier versions of these programs, they have tightened it up quite a bit. So
Right.
now where if I'm used to asking that question, it'd be like, oh, it sounds like you have bipolar disorder. It sounds like you have ADHD.
Right. Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, I'm not allowed to diagnose. You
Yeah.
know, you need to talk to somebody who's a professional. However, I can give you some general ideas of, like, it could be something in the mood spectrum. So I'm grateful that, like, they're making it safer, but that's not going to stop necessarily some Tom, Dick, or Harry from going and publishing an herbalism book or a mental health book based on information that they're pulling off of AI, which, like you said, still makes a lot of mistakes. Now, I do think that stuff's going to get better and better over time. It's going to get, you know, down to a near zero on error rates, but it's not there, not even
Right.
close.
Right. And I think two things that come to mind when it comes to, you know, like foraging, I think that, again, just being able to discern good resources from bad resources, where there are real practicing foragers, bushcrafters, preppers, people that have been out actually doing this and using that information. And then when it comes to like health related stuff, like whenever I'm consulting with people, well, they could just input information into one of these AI type tools and see what it said to do. But one of the issues with that is that the chat GPT and AI it can only answer the questions that are asked. Mm-hmm. And as a clinician, we're trained to see the whole scope of what's not being said.
Right.
And to dig a little deeper and to, consider the whole person, who they are on all aspects. What kind of role do they play? How is that interacting? Are they, are they part of a large family? What kind of stress might that create? Like, there's so many different ways that we have to think about holistically in order to help somebody with their health. While those types of tools, like you said, can be a good starting place, it can only answer the questions that you ask, and it cannot see beyond that. It's not actually seeing you. It's just taking what you put in. And most of us, if we knew the questions to ask, we would have already solved the problem ourselves. That's really what being a clinician or a practitioner of any kind is helping people sort through what questions they need to answer so we can help empower them to make those changes. So that was really long-winded. Hopefully you followed.
We talk about AI a lot on my channel. It's something that I'm tracking. It's probably one of my biggest things that as a prepper that I'm interested for a lot of different reasons, but the primary thing I'm concerned with right now with AI is job displacement. Like I'm not worried about the Terminator right now. Could that eventually happen if we survive long enough? Yeah, anything's possible. Yeah, but I read a lot about AI. I read probably an hour or more a day on like AI articles. What's the latest research? How are these things being trained? What are the ethics concerns? Like I'm reading all this, consuming all this material about AI, and everything that I've read does not lead me to believe like that these things are going to like flick a switch and become like Terminators. I don't think that's where they are. Right. But the job displacement thing is on our doorstep. That is already happening, and it's going to get worse. So that's where a lot of my focus is with talking about this with the community. So the other thing that, in just one last little thing on the AI, and then we'll go back to the poultice. So in listening to these interviews with the people who've worked on these programs and the ethicists and whatnot, it seems like when you're using your your little black mirror to talk to these things, they seem conscious. They seem like it, but they're not. At least the ones on your phone are definitely not. The frontier systems that are locked in a lab that only like less than 100 people in the country have access to, I don't know, because it's top secret information. Like, so we don't really know what's happening at that level. Little leaks come out, things like that. People say, hey, we're concerned. This thing is like acting like it's conscious now, whatever. But don't know. The training, at least on these language learning models, which is what people have on their phone with ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot or Grok or any of these, the way that they're trained is pattern recognition. Okay, so humans, we do use pattern recognition as part of our brain, but that's not how we think and deduce and resolve problems and decision making. It's an observation tool, but it's not how we think. Okay, they're not capable, at least yet, of thinking in the way that a human thinks, right? So they do pattern recognition. That in the whole system, your ChatGPT, your Grok, your Geminis, they're all, at least the US models. I don't know about China. The US models are all trained on pattern recognition. So what they did was they fed these things billions and billions and billions of examples of human conversation and like human writing and things like that, right? They just flooded these things with so much data that now it's very good at predicting how you're going to finish your sentence and what a appropriate response to that is. It doesn't mean it's right. It's how it interprets, like, oh, this seems like an appropriate response, and that's how they think.
Yeah. Well, and I think So a few things come to mind. I really appreciate you sharing that there's a difference between the
Huge.
pattern recognition in AI and how humans think. I wonder, coming from a holistic health sort of background where I've been, I've studied the history of different types of healing modalities, which sounds kind of, woo-woo, but it's not. These were just doctors that went by different names before we had the American Medical Association. Sure. They had a variety of different, groups that they functioned under. But throughout that, for eons, through most traditions, there has been something called vitalism. Now, whether you're Christian or whether you come from a different background, you're going to perceive that differently. But the truth is, through healing, part of the healing process is being in the presence of and with others that are alive. And so I worry that we're off-putting expectations for something that is, it has no vitality. It is not a living thing, and we're expecting it to help us heal in ways, at least in the holistic health world and modern medicine, that it wasn't ever really meant to do. Because I do believe that part of the work that any sort of person in the healing profession, holistic or otherwise, does is by just standing witness and being part of the process. I believe that process of consulting is healing for people. Now, others might argue otherwise, but we have hundreds of thousands of years of that.
All the mental health research backs up exactly what you're saying.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and I believe it was Carl Rogers who first put that out there into the mental health world about being present with the patient, right? So up until Carl Rogers, we had the psychodynamic therapy, Freud, right? Like, so very, very cold, very, you're this way because your mother did this, it's very cold. Carl Rogers came in and said, we are a partner with the patient looking at what is the problem. Okay. And then other people who've come after him have done research on this. And what we've found in mental health consistently, study after study, is that I can be a very good EMDR therapist. I'm an excellent EMDR therapist. I can be very good at cognitive behavioral therapy. I could be very good at motivational interviewing therapy. I could be very good at dialectical behavioral therapy. All of those are nice things, and they will help me in my trade. But the number one factor that makes a difference whether or not my patient is going to improve is the relationship between me and that patient. It beats everything else, no matter who is your trainer, where you went to school, how good of a writer you are, how versed you are in psychodynamic theory. Those all help, but the biggest factor, over and over again, research has shown is the relationship between the patient and the therapist.
Yes, that's I love that, and I love that you have that background to share that, because that's something I've been pondering on for months now. Like, I just don't think it can replace that. I really don't, from my background. Yeah.
Yeah. So how I use this in my practice is, number one, I give my patients permission to fire me. If I'm not vibing with you and we're like 5-6 sessions in, it's probably not going to happen between us, right? And you have every right to say, thank you, this isn't a good match. And I will help you find somebody who hopefully is a better match for you. That is the best thing I can do for you as a therapist. So that's thing one. And when I'm working with new clinicians because I do this as a side gig where I help, we call it supervision, where you're helping the unlicensed clinicians work towards their independent license. And so there's 2 years of mentoring that goes into that. It's pretty in depth.
It's rigorous, right? What you guys have to go through. Yeah.
And there's a lot that we have to cover in those 2 years. And I'm liable if they screw up, if they do something that's unethical, I'm on the hook for that. So there's also that like relationship between supervisor and supervisee that's really important. And I do an interview with people beforehand and like, what are your interests? Tell me what you like. And, where do you want to take this in the field and that kind of thing. And do you feel like I'm a good match for you? If you're not, it's okay. I'll give you a couple other names to check out, because it's really important that you and I have this trust too.
Yeah.
But what I tell them, my supervisees, is because everyone's nervous when they start therapy. You have this imposter syndrome thing going on. Like, oh my God, what if I'm working with somebody fragile and I make it worse, right? Like, that's every therapist's worst nightmare, right? Like, what if I make this situation worse?
Mm-hmm.
The answer to that is, if you are present with the client and you are being a good listener and you are genuine and you're authentic and you're treating them with respect, and you learn to validate, because I would say that's probably the second biggest factor, is like, can you validate? Which is a little bit more complicated than it sounds. It's a skill. But can you do that? Because that'd be probably the second most important thing. If you do that, you're not going to do any harm. You're going to do more help than you harm. Everything else you do after that, whatever trainings you get, whatever experience you get, whatever expertise you get, is going to be a bonus. But those are the two biggest things.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And I know in my experience in working one-on-one with clients, one of the things that I think that is valuable to them is that I can have extensive consultative process with them where we get into all the many details of their life. And in modern medicine, there's just not time for that. They get, roughly 7 minutes and then they have to move on. And so even the most best meaning, doctor or practitioner, they don't have time to go through all of that. And then a lot of times they don't have the background or even the ability to, based on the way that their licensor is or their clinical policy is, to make recommendations outside of a very narrow scope of practice. So
in some ways we've over legislated things,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, well, we got off on a nice little fun tangent there. I love good intellectual conversation like that. So let's do the poultice. Let's show us what you can show us today.
Well, we can't fix everything with plantain, but we can come pretty close. We can make a good stab at it. So if you are out in your backyard and you are pretty sure you've found your plantain, hopefully through a guidebook or someone else, but again, there aren't, to my awareness, any poisonous lookalikes, you're going to pluck yourself a few leaves for this process. And I would recommend this for any sort of scrape, so like a mild abrasion, a cut, a bump, a bite. It could be a poultice, any sort of minor wound that you've got going on. Now, when you pull off your plantain leaves, I'm going to show you this. It's called ribwort because it has these veins or ribs that come out, and if you can see those, and that's one of the telltale signs. And you're going to take,
before you make the poultice, can you show them the close-up of that leaf, because those parallel veins are also important too, right, for identification?
So they are parallel leaves, and I'll turn it over and you'll really see it and you'll be able to feel it. The kids love to make fun little things with this, because you can pull these veins out and pull them apart, and they can be dried and actually woven.
That's cool. So you could potentially make cordage with it.
You could. Mm-hmm. Cool. Some people do. And these ribs also make good like little scratch art and prints and things like that if you're into natural crafts. And so now your goal is to take this. I prefer to rinse them off, because in parks and stuff, you never know what's been on, what's gotten onto something, but you don't have to. And I do tell people to be sure that you're not harvesting somewhere where things have been sprayed or where there's potential toxins. I've been quite shocked at how often, I guess I shouldn't be, how often our local park system sprays to keep things pristine like they are. So, another one of my lifeline goals is to teach people what they can use and eat their weeds. They can use their weeds for and get us to using them instead of using so many chemicals like glyphosate and stuff. So you want to be mindful of that whenever you're out harvesting. But then we're just going to crush this leaf up. Some people will roll it up, put it in their mouth, chew it, and put it on. If you're comfortable with that, hey, that's great. Otherwise, we can tear it into pieces and apply it, or we can chop it up. Just, take whichever knife that you have available to you. Hopefully you've been watching Prepping with Sarge's
My
awesome
next
knife
list.
collection and you have one on you. And I
Yeah.
will say that I used to carry a Benchmade with me everywhere. I lost it to airport security.
Oh no.
It was rough. It was like, I've got to make this flight.
I'll tell you what, if I get to one of your face-to-face classes, I will give you a good knife.
That would be amazing. But having the knowledge of IDing a few basic plants allowed me to feel prepared no matter where I was, that and just a small, decent knife, because you can solve a lot of life's problems with that.
Amen.
So I'm crushing this up. You can do it with your fingers, you can do it with a knife. So we're just trying to release some of the moisture in this plant. And so this is going to get good and moist. And we don't really need a lot. I'm going to use my knife to do some more of that. I'm not sure what
So you're just trying to get the moisture to come out a little bit.
Yep. We're just trying to chop it up. You can pretend you're chopping up herbs for a salad, whatever you want. But the point is just to have it release the moisture inside the leaf, however you can best do that. Mortar and pestle, you could use a rock against, a flat stone. Get creative with it. There's really no right or wrong way to do this, which is my favorite type of herbal medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we have that good and moist and chopped up, we're going to apply it to our area that is bothering us. And I'm going to tear some tape off to get prepped for my bandage and show you how to do that. This is good old-fashioned freezer tape. You could use painter's tape, but this is cheaper. And there's 1,000,001 uses for this in the kitchen, in the apothecary, the bandages. If you have a friend or family member that is a carpenter, they probably make their own painter tape bandages all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Similar concept. So we're going to apply this. We'll say the wound is there. And then we're going to use a simple cheesecloth or bandage.
Or gauze, if you've got it.
Gauze. I've just seen people even use paper towels in a pinch.
As long as it's clean, right?
As long as it's clean. That's why I don't chew it in my mouth, even though grandma says you can. People nowadays tend to not have the best oral health and tend to have a lot of, microbiome issues. So you got to know the person well before you let them do a spit poultice on you.
Yeah, I might do that for myself, but I'm not taking anybody else's spit on my cut.
Yeah. And then we're going to use this just to tape it into place. And so this is a pretty quick way to make your own bandage. And you're going to leave that on there for several hours and just continue to change it out a couple times a day. And so overnight is ideal. And from there, you can get into making herbal oils and salves. And so those things you can have already made for you and take with you wherever you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much for teaching us.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let's end with this little discussion since we went down one rabbit hole. How are you finding social media these days with the natural remedies thing? Because there was, I don't know, what was it, about a year or two ago? All of a sudden they were just hammering natural remedies. My personal thing is I think RFK has probably, helped to kind of relieve some of the pressure on that, but how are you finding it?
For me, it's hit and miss. It definitely got better for a period of time. I just came off of a social media break. That's something that, for myself, I just have to hit a hard pause from time to time. I do feel like it's better than it was for a period of time. And then more recently, I felt like there was some friction. It's hard for me to tell because don't enjoy. I enjoy connecting with people and I enjoy building the community,
Yeah.
but I don't enjoy the marketing piece of things, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah, it
um,
does.
yeah,
My
but
my, my video, oh, sorry.
I do think that there was a time where I know I had multiple violations and didn't even realize it. And one of them was over an usnea video,
A what?
an usnea foraging video. You know, the things that they called it obscene, and it just, why? I have no idea. No one can tell me.
I mean, I have theories. If we want to get conspiracy theory, I think that for the same reason that in our state they're looking to take away. Now, this is not an advocation from anybody in the community to think that Mr. Tom is recommending people go use marijuana or anything like that. But South Carolina is in a really weird place with that compared to the rest of the country, anyways. But now there was like CBD that people could get with a little bit of THC in it, and now they're like hammering down on that too. Where's that coming from? Well, I can speculate that part of that's probably coming from the alcohol industry because
Right.
alcohol sales are way down, especially with Gen Z. Gen Z's
Mhm.
like a
Yeah.
lot of yeah, they're like, this is poison. We're not putting this in our
Yeah.
body. Um, but I think some of it comes from the biopharmaceutical industry too, right? And
Absolutely.
that's my
Mhm.
guess. So when you see
Yeah.
them start hammering down on natural remedies, that's where I think it comes from.
I do too, 100%. And I do think things have gotten better in that area in some ways, but there's still so much friction. Um, and I do think that anything that would allow you that ability to take care of yourself, I think, has become a target.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's why this community is so important and vital and why we have to continue to share. And we know that sharing amongst each other is the best way to keep these things alive. So that's why I keep teaching. I'm sure that's why you're here too.
Oh yeah. And when we hit those friction points, like whether it be natural remedies or knife content or whatever, um it's funny, like okay, so you may not show my videos now for a month because I dared to show a pocket knife in a video or something like that. Part of it like ticks me off and makes me say, like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But then the other part of me is like, screw this censorship. I'm going to come at it like 3 times as hard now. Like,
Yeah,
I will get this information out one way or the other.
one
So,
way or the other. Yeah, yeah. Well, and yeah, I don't think they really understand the mindset of the people that they're
yeah,
that really truly value this type of information, that want to do things for themselves, that know that, I mean, I believe that we have the right and the responsibility to know how to take care of ourselves and others. And I also believe that that's a God-given right to be able to do that, and that no one should be impeding on that,
yeah.
however you
And
define
if it was really a safety issue, which I don't believe it is,
it.
if it was really a safety issue, then the proper solution to that is to find people like yourself that are vetted and trained and promote those people, you
Yeah,
know, and just identify like, hey, this is suspect. This person doesn't seem to know what they're talking about. Let's not promote that content, right? And you could even have like a manager, like a community manager for certain topics, like, botany and herbalism and apothecary, and um, that person's job is they handle all the reports of like, hey, this information looks suspect, and okay,
right.
you know Sarge goes into timeout for a couple weeks to learn his lesson. And by the way, if you could send me a message on like why I'm in timeout, that sure would help me learn so I could do better at your platform.
Yeah. We just I really think when you do that is when you start hitting, for whatever reason, certain milestones or certain types of content that's been deemed, like, they just don't want people to know that. I mean, maybe that's my own conspiracy. They're like, we can't have you knowing that.
Yeah,
Because the type of information that I see that gets out there, both, from the type of stuff that you put out with information about prepping and knives and stuff like that. Like, I've seen some things I'm like, how are they able to show that? Like, that's shocking to me.
yeah,
Things that are inappropriate, things that are really unrealistic, not educational, not helping anyone, but they're creators that have huge followings, so they can kind of get away with whatever.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's a double standard. Yeah, if you are bringing in millions of views, they'll let a lot of stuff slide.
Yeah, and I see that in the holistic health and herb world too. There are content creators versus those of us that are professionals that have been learning and doing and teaching. And most of us, we don't have marketing teams. We're too busy foraging for that. Like we don't. Yeah.
Rules for thee, but not for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I thank you so much, and let me say thank you again to the audience here. I saw everybody had some good chats going and a few jokes. I tried to put a few of those funny things up on the board there. I hope you all learned something from this. Please go check out Jess's content. You really are going to be happy if you subscribe. I'm learning new stuff from her all the time, like that mullein actually does grow in our area. It's just really hard to find.
Hard to get started. Yeah.
And so thank you, everybody. Thank you, the mods, for always showing up every week, helping me out. It means the world to me. My mods are all volunteers, so I can't thank you guys enough. I do little things for them on the side when I can, but for the most part, it's an unpaid job. So I really appreciate you all. And Jess, thank you so much. If you can hang out for just 1 minute after we go off. Thank you for everything you showed us today. I think that you are a wealth of knowledge, and I'm really blessed to have you as a friend. I do need to. If you do a live class, I gotta try to get to it. I really need to come.
To make it happen. I gotta find a location. I think our community really needs it, though. Yeah, and they need some of the stuff that you have to offer too. I do want to tell everyone, if they have questions that pop up afterwards, if they comment. And if that's okay with you, I'm happy to come back and answer those to the best of my ability. And if you find my social media site and you have questions on there, reach out to me. I love connecting with other preppers and also other plant people, which most of the preppers are garden and plant people. And if you have advice for me, if you have information, if there's some way that you guys are using plantain, please let me know, because I love getting new recipes and new ideas. And if you don't already know plantain, get out there and find it.
It's a good one. It's a good one. All right. Anything else that you want them to check out? Anything you got coming up soon that they should be aware of?
I think we've hit all of it so far. Just so excited for spring to come, to start harvesting. It's going to be a good time.
Yep, it is. And I'm glad you were able to find some of those. Like, I haven't seen the purple henbit yet. So I need to get out there. It's time for me to start hitting the trails again.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody. I hope you all have a great weekend. Thank you so much. Keep planting your seeds. Keep stacking your silver. This is Jess and Sarge. Good night, everybody.